Yes, there you have it, folks. Siesta Ocha. That means it must be time for a little city business. And speaking of a little city business, we bring it to you right after each city council session, the following Tuesday lunchtime, the next Thursday following, not the next one, but the following this week, Thursday, dinner time, 6:30 p.m., and then breakfast time, Monday, 6:30 a.m. And joining us in the studio is 4th City Ward Council person, Mr. Michael Halley. How you doing today?
Good. Glad to be here.
Well, good to see you. And what's on your docket, as they say, in this business?
Well, it's always some good news and some bad news, but we'll get to that.
Now, you speak up there, young man.
Yep. All right. We're starting with concern about some uneven bricks. So we had a public appearance from a downtown.
I hate that.
I know, but it's good that the people can address their concerns. So it's an owner of a building downtown, and the city installed the brick years back as kind of a visual, just up kind of dressing it up a bit.
So you're talking about brick in front of the business?
On the sidewalk, it's like sidewalks mostly cement, but then along the curb is brick.
Gotcha.
I'd say 95% of it is sitting in place just nicely, but there are places where there's an alley, and so there's a different grade, and so this is one of those places. And so this business owner took some pictures and showed the bricks have been uneven, some of them broken. So while sidewalks in front of businesses or residents are the property owner's responsibility, the council felt that because the city put the brick in, the city should fix the brick. So we'll do an assessment, check all of it, not just this one area, but any other places where it's cracked or settled in a funny way. Check in with the contractor who laid it down to find out if there are some, well, they might know some ways to prevent that in the future.
Right.
But from what I've gathered just walking around unofficially is that in most places it's fine, it's flat, it's level, but there are places, especially where it meets alleyways, and there's a slope area, and that's where it gets in trouble.
Well, and so is this something that's wider spread than just that this one business is talking about?
There are some other places.
A few.
Yeah, and it's, like I said, it seems to be close to alleyways. So we'll take a look at it.
Well, we know the alleyway, the alleyway one is a full brick situation there off the square, right? The alleyway.
The one on the north side, yeah.
The north side?
That was actually put in intentionally to be a pedestrian alley. So
yeah.
it's closed to vehicles.
But
talking about the one that runs north-south.
That's correct.
Yeah, these are the smaller bricks that are just around the sidewalks, all around the square and then down Main Street.
Part of the Great Places thing, was that it?
I think Great Places opened the door to us getting some funding, but I can't remember exactly. I wasn't on the council at the time, but I'm not sure exactly. But it was
a mix of things, I guess.
Some grant funding. I think the total upgrade for the downtown, including the nodes, was about $750,000, most of which was grant funding.
They look pretty as can be.
Yep. It actually brings up an interesting point. When people complain that those kind of unnecessary upgrades are made, or why are we spending money on trails when our sewer system needs upgrading? It's important to remember that grants are project specific, and grant funds that are available for something like a downtown streetscape would not be available for something like a sewer upgrade.
It is a good point. Anybody who deals in nonprofit world understands this particular situation. I remember my brother doing some missionary work in Guatemala when I got involved here. With this project, just said, whatever grants you do, you want them to be specific enough that they serve your purposes as well as the purpose, obviously, of the granting body, which is a critical thing. But you're just making the point that it's not like, oh, we've got this money, we should use it for something else. It was either for that project or it wouldn't have been available. Exactly. So when you make a grant, that's just I mean, there are some general funding situations, but not so many.
Yeah, this was specific to streetscapes. And Great Places, the whole designation was part of encouraging tourism in Iowa. So any investment made into a community that makes it more attractive to tourists, but also the people who live there, the state figured was an investment that would yield a return. And I know that for some people, they feel like city government or government in general should just focus on infrastructure, just keep the streets paved, just keep the water flowing, the sewer lines, and not get involved in so much beautification. But at the same time, if a community focuses only on those things and doesn't also focus on amenities, then that's not a community that will likely attract people to live, work, visit. So it's a balance. But I've heard that criticism before, and I just wanted to make that note about that particular project. I'm sure there's some people out there still grumbling. It was a complete waste of money. But again, the grant funds that covered it would not have been available for other projects.
And that was also some years back. I remember, even as the convention center expanded its opened its aperture in terms of what was possible. It's not like you make excuses, but it was just a different time for what was possible, the way things were flowing. And so it's a little bit of historical perspective is important, because I'm sure if it was past 2007, 2008, 2009, and we've seen it's certainly been different. So
it's different. And that actually, we're going to talk about the budget, and that's an interesting point. But before that, Kiwanis Kids Day, the big parade, and this is 49th consecutive Kids Day, the 48th that they've had a parade and pancake breakfast. So
pancakes, baby.
What a tradition.
That is a great tradition.
Saturday, September 19th, come on downtown, watch the parade, get your pancakes. There'll be things also on the square through, I think, early afternoon. I think
also this week, Thursday, and actually there'll be an interview with Pat Hurley, the president of First National Bank, on KRUU, 6:10 p.m. tonight, 6:10 a.m. tomorrow morning, and 12:10 Thursday. Thursday is their 150th commemoration of being the second oldest business in Fairfield. And I think Washmoo has something going on the 19th, too, if I remember correctly, on new banks. And so, stuff for lots of folks.
Yep, it's always something.
But how about that, 150 years, 50 years? We're all proud of getting up to our 9th anniversary. It's like, damn.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
It is a long time.
And congratulations. And that's a lot of pancakes, too.
Yeah, it is a lot of pancakes. I wonder if they could, it'd be too hard to calculate. But
McDonald's does that thing with how many cows? Wait, no, how many hamburgers or whatever. I don't know if they're still doing that.
Yeah, McDonald's is having some issues. They're not.
By the way, we're speaking with Michael Halley. This is James Moore, and you are listening to City Business. What's happening at City Hall? What else you got for the budget?
This is new. This is part of our, not just amongst the council, but for the public, keeping track of how the finances are going.
Cool.
So it's a snapshot of all the city budgets as of the end of our fiscal year, which was June 30th, 2015. And if this was the state of affairs when Moody's did their last review, which they did in March, we would have not been downgraded. We would have probably been upgraded, because we've done most of what they wanted, and it was made possible by finally, and this was the problem, the delay in selling Logan Apartments. So our general fund, for example, the cash balance starting fiscal year, so this would have been July 1st, 2014, was $141,000. Moody's recommends we have about $1.4 million. So that's quite a ways away.
Roughly a tenth.
And so the cash balance as of the end of the fiscal year, a little over $1 million.
Great.
Much closer to 1.4. So that is a plus. That was the majority, a big bulk of the sale of Logan. The rest went into some other funds. But I'm just going to highlight a couple of little things.
Okay, make sure you talk right into that mic.
Yep,
I know you're looking down.
I'm looking down here.
Yep.
We are required to have a couple of funds for debt services. So paying off the convention center and our wastewater, they want us to have a certain percentage of whatever we owe in a sinking fund. And
doesn't sound good.
It doesn't sound good. But the idea is that you have to have it on hand in case, for whatever reason, suddenly your revenue stream dries up.
What about rainy day fund? Whatever happened to that concept?
Yep. So this is it's not a big deal, though, because you're taking it from the same revenue source. You're setting a little bit aside in this fund. And then when it comes time to pay off the loan, you can use that fund as your final payment. So it's there, it's available, but it's just broken down slightly differently than it has been in the past. Our road use tax fund, we received that, I believe, through the state. And Daryl Bisgard from the Streets Department has always been careful. He tries to spend less than we get each year, but that's available for basically street reconstruction and repaving. And then I was glad to see that our solid waste fund had been in the negative for years. It was a internal little clerical error where we were paying more than we were bringing in from the residents for trash pickup for years prior to 2010. We fixed that, and it took since 2010 to, I believe, last month to get it out of the negative.
Cool.
And this is another example Moody's did not want to see any of our balances in the negative. So there's one less in the negative. It looks like one more, and this was just an unfortunate. I don't like to talk about this in terms of the money involved because it's a tragic accident, but we had a fatality at a work site, the wastewater plant, and as a result, our workers' comps has gone up considerably, and it wasn't budgeted. So now we have to find the funds to pay for the 1 year, and then moving forward, budget more for that expense. And that's one of those expenses you have to pay. Yep. You don't want to pay more, but as a result of that accident, we are. So that's good news, bad news, but I think overall, this is a much stronger budget, and look forward to Moody's coming in and taking a look. I think that
how often do they do that? Do you know?
It must be annually.
I would expect.
I'd expect no more often than that. So if they look again, we should be seeing that bond rating up, which is just more kind of a sign of overall fiscal strength. Mm-hmm. So it's just good to see, even now, things moving in the right direction.
Well, you know what they say, it's good to accentuate the positive.
That's right.
Speaking of accentuating the positive, Mr. Jason Strong in the house, Fairfield Media Center. We love those guys, doing a great job, and keeping you in the visuals. Mm-hmm. We tend to think of radio as TV without the pictures, so it's creative. Back to the city haps.
Sure. We authorized a new agreement between Indian Hills Community College and the Carnegie Museum. They both are housed in the old library building, the Carnegie Library on Court Street. City owns that building.
Oh, cool.
But the museum expanded last year. I think actually it was 2013. They expanded. No, I think it was 2014. It was 175th anniversary. They were going to be temporarily using a space in the basement that was formerly part of Indian Hills space. And now they're permanently there. Mm-hmm. So with the change of the percentage of the building that is museum versus Indian Hills Community College, we decided to renew the contract and just make it more of a 50-50 split on certain expenses. I will say that Councilman John Revolinsky, who is kind of involved in real estate in his own life, doesn't like the fact that we don't actually charge Indian Hills, which we don't. And it's similar to what's going on in the convention center. Mm-hmm. Rather than charge the tenant, you leave them responsible. In the case of the convention center, 100% responsible for upkeep. In the case of this one, 50% in most cases, so that the building is occupied, so that the building is maintained, and so that the service offered by that organization is available for your citizens. So it's the same thing with the college. Having them in that building is advantageous to the community, more so than trying to find a tenant who can pay, is the way the city looks at it. So it's and
I suppose Indian Hills are pretty, steady Eddie.
Yeah, and it's good to have those classrooms there. Let's see,
and good folks too.
Yep, we set a public hearing. We're going to be leasing some land around the airport for our agricultural purposes. Okay. And it's an advantage to the city. It's a little bit of income for land that's owned but not utilized at this time for any purpose. So just be farmed. And a little bit of an update. The airport wants to, not the airport, the private, there's a name for the group, but they're private jet owners, and Cambridge Investments being one of them.
The Jet Set?
You could call them that if you like. They own hangars at our airport, and they own the hangars, though they're on the airport land. They want to build a new one for a new jet. And so they're seeking permission to extend their lease for a few years so that they can then expand. And this is kind of a side note. I'll be talking about this Iowa Living Roadways Community Visioning coming up soon. But one of the projects in that this time was to accentuate our northern entrance. We have this great southern entrance with a nice sign. We can do the same thing by the pedestrian bridge, a nice big Fairfield sign, some nice native prairie plantings in that area. Because for anybody coming in to Fairfield via jet, and I'm not just talking about Oprah Winfrey, I'm not just talking about Jim Carrey, I'm talking about anybody who's an executive bringing someone to town, that's their entrance to town. So while we focused on the south because that's the bypass, we can't forget the north because that's the airport. So,
well, they say the north shall rise again.
Oh, you just been waiting for that.
I have. Thank you.
All right. So we'll see some besides the new terminal at the airport. It's kind of like a little booming, small little airport.
Well, it is. It's growing, right? They're about finished with aren't they doing upgrades there?
They're about to start the
yeah.
new terminal. I went out there over the weekend and they've got the tape around the old one. So that's probably going to come down soon.
Exciting.
So yeah.
Why they call it a terminal, I don't know, but I guess, you just can't focus on words too much.
Well, is it the end of the portion of your journey? Because I think they call it
Beautiful.
terminus is the term for where the railroad ends or converge. So
even the end of your journey is a little close to the home.
It does sound like welcome to the end of your journey. I should have a little voiceover in there. All right, moving on. The city wants to get together with the county and have a 2080 agreement. It's intergovernmental agreement.
I thought you were going to say a disco party, man.
Maybe next time. Maybe after we get this agreement. But we both want to get a portion of, is it 227th? I can't remember the name of the road. Let's see here. Yes, 227th Street. It's the first road south of the bypass if you're going out on Highway 1. So we paved a portion of that on the west side in preparation of the American. And now the east side, Fairfield Economic Development Association just bought some acreage out there, and Iowa Department of Transportation has acreage. We'd like to pave from Highway 1, not quite to the wastewater treatment plant, but I think more or less before the curve that goes around, and that would create better access to this land that FEDA hopes to develop. It was recently annexed into the city, so it's now city property, but the road is, I believe, split in half. So the north side is city and the south side is county. So to pave it, it has to go in.
Sounds like trouble.
Well, we've done it before. Go in halvesies.
That's good.
But there is a rise. I'm not for rural something. I forget. I'll have to look that up. But
the acronym is RISE.
RISE is the acronym. Oh, here it is. Revitalize Iowa's sound economy.
Wow.
It's a little bit of a stretch. But
is it for radio, sound economy?
Maybe.
Be here now, so you can see that on TV. You can't see.
Yeah, I think that they were looking for an S word.
Oh, they mean
sound.
There you go. Sound as in
solid. And yeah. So the DOT would end up paying 50%.
Cool.
County 25 and the city 25. County looked it over at their meeting on Monday morning, decided they needed to make sure that the city would not use special assessment on county properties. And at this point, the city has no intention. We would assess the properties within the city limits. And those property owners, FEDA and DOT, have indicated they're fine with being assessed, meaning they pay a little bit, but to get that road paved, they're willing to pay. So the city's working out our side. So we went ahead and moved forward with our resolution. Now it's balls in the county's court and see if they come on board so we can get this done.
Great.
We finalized the rezoning of the property on Libertyville Road west of the hospital. So it's now R3 multifamily. So if the Huffman project moves forward, could have some housing out there. All right. Had a few committee reports. Nothing ground-breaking, earth-shattering from water and sewer. It was mostly this. Well, I'll tell you, this happens sometimes when something breaks down on a personal property in terms of the sewer line. That's on the property owner. But if it reaches the city's main or where the city's tie-in is, that's city. Well, the property owner went ahead and fixed all of it just to get the problem fixed because they didn't want any problem. And so then we're reimbursing for the part that was the city's. Property committee, they were mostly talking about the airport, which we talked about, and then also the Indian Hills lease. Ways and means, gosh, I got to go back in my memory. We did talk about, using local option sales tax this time. And we're doing this time. In the future, could change, hopefully will, because this is, again, it's a valid use of local option sales tax, but it could be maybe somehow put into a department. But our sustainability coordinator, Scott Tim, he is 50% funded from Iowa State University Extension Office and then 50% from the city. And his time is supposed to be split 50-50, though he does more work for the city that counts as work for ISU Extension. And so every year it's been this question, where do we get his portion of our salary? And it's been talked about, well, should we put him in the park and rec department? Well, that department, because he does a lot of work for the parks, getting tree grants and such, that department doesn't need any more expenses. So maybe you should put him in wastewater because he's done some work with the watershed. But at this point, it was paid, decided to come out of lost. We just went ahead and had a vote just to make sure it was official. But this was for one time, and we'll figure out how to do it in the future. Some ideas may be that he could be a contractor instead of having this agreement through ISU. He would just contract on a project by project basis for the city. There are other ideas. I know he's got a lot of work he's doing with ISU it's really good work. He's working with Hispanic communities. Yeah, he actually speaks fluent Spanish. He's a teacher in Costa Rica at a bilingual school.
A great guy.
So he's traveling the state. He has to sometimes go up to Spirit Lake, which is diagonally across the state, quite a ways away to do some of his work. So, but the work he's done for the city, and we want to keep him on because it's important work, and he's probably, if you add up all the grants he's brought in, he's probably paid his salary many times over.
I would think so. He's done a tremendous job. He's a great force for good. And he has, it'd be interesting actually to figure out what he's brought in because it's been a lot.
Yeah, I asked him one time. You should just add it up because the tree grants alone, 10,000 here, 10,000 there. He'd bring in 2 of those a year. It's most of what the city's paying. And so it's very impressive, the work he's done. He also spearheaded the Hometown Rewards program through Line Energy, energy efficient. Anytime you save money on your utility bill, that's money you keep in your pocket, and that is economic development. So great job.
Yes, Mr. Tim. Haven't seen him for a while. We worked more closely for many years, but I think he's been doing a little bit more elsewhere, and I bet a great guy.
Recently, a lot of focus on trees. He brought in, this is the Sustainable Urban Forest Program that has educated local city employees, parks and street employees, as well as citizens on tree identification, how to kind of the basics of tree care, assessing the health of trees, and also we want to have all public trees mapped out. I think we got them all now. I think we've got the street the DNR did for us. The park I think we did as part of this program. So we have these maps that show, and you can actually go on an aerial and see what the tree is, the species, approximate age, health. Wow. Which is great because all these ash trees are going to be coming down, and we got to have a plan how to stay ahead of. We're losing canopy. You can't replace a large old tree. You replant, you get something that's
in between.
Well, not even. You get something that's got enough shade for a cat, maybe. It's not what it used to be. So when they measure it by canopy, which is a new way of not just the number of trees, but the amount of canopy or shade that is created by the trees, then we're losing a lot, like a large percentage. So we're going to stay ahead of it. But at the end of the program, we will form a new long-term, short-term urban forest plan. So thank you on that one. And
well, that's what he does. He's a man who makes those trees stand up and bark.
One last thing. This is a program I've got involved with through the city's Economic Development Committee. Jessica Ledger-Kalin I believe, heard about this through Leadership Iowa, which is a program that she had been involved with. So it's called Home Base Iowa. It came out of the governor's office, and the program is designed to provide incentives for veterans of all kinds to relocate to Iowa. And so they want particular or specific communities to become Home Base Iowa communities. In order to do so, you have to have about 10% of your employers offering some kind of incentive. And many of the communities also have the city offering incentives. So I met with Adam Plaguey from Fairfield Economic Development Association and Ray Chambers from the County Veterans Affairs Office. And we brainstormed and went over a template of another Iowa community that is Home Base Iowa designated. And the two things that made sense that the city could offer as incentives would be to waive the $25 hookup fee for a new utility account. So when they come in to City Hall and they get the water and all that, we just waive that fee. And a free park and recreation membership for a certain amount of time. It doesn't have to be maybe a whole year, because I know that department is working on raising its revenue but we can offer some sort of incentive, and it would just be for anyone relocating, if they already live here.
So just create a little goodie basket as an incentive.
As an incentive. Mm-hmm. So as I said at council.
And that was something Jessica found?
She found or heard about it through Leadership Iowa and thought that it would be a good thing. That she knows how much I like special projects. She's like, Michael, I think you would. I said, yes, I will take it, because I like to give back, and I think that veterans often give more than maybe they even intend to when they go into battle and see action, and that stays with them for their whole life. And so
it's important too. I mean, there's a lot more dealing with the after effects of being in than, many different things, talking about just a lot of things. So that's a nice touch. And Plaguey's a great guy too to work with on all that, of course.
Yep.
Great job.
Good group of people. So I'll have more to report as that moves forward.
Nice. Anything else?
That's all I've got.
I see a clean slate there.
Yeah, look at that.
Well, you know what? That means it's time to bring up the music. Good to see you, Michael Halley, 4th Council City Ward Council person. This is James Moore, 4th Ward City crew host with Jason Strong, and we're out of here. Have a good day, and don't do anything you wouldn't do.